Welcome to That's Controversial, another week, another news week of controversial news. I'm Swami. We got Liz over here. Can I say hi?
Hey.
Hey. We got three beautiful, lovely guests. Right next to me, we got Kory. Kory, tell me a little about yourself.
How you doing? My name's Kory, 22, going to school full time. I dance. You know, we just got done with a show, We Breathe Dance. I did a little African piece, and then we did also like a menacing piece, kind of like a, you know, the Boston Massacre and 9/11 all wrapped up to one, to kind of explain like, is there anything more? Like, you know, you go through all the paranoia and all that, and people start to question, is there a God, and what's a higher power? Why would he be doing this to them?
Are you a choreographer?
I am too, but for this show, I was strictly just dance.
Just dancing.
Just dancing.
Just putting yourself out there and just dancing.
Yeah, you can say I'm one of the extras.
Okay, good for you. Nathan Nahouraii here, and you are the creator of a great app. Tell me about it a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. My name's Nathan Nahouraii. I'm actually a 9-year realtor, and as I was practicing in my business, I realized that I just didn't have this really handy tool to help me strengthen the relationships that I had with my previous clients. And so I decided to look out there and see if there was something out there, and nothing was there, and so I created it. And I just launched November 1st of this year.
Nice.
And it's been get some really good positive responses from it.
Cool. We're gonna come back in a second and talk to you about your app. You're gonna show it to us. And we got Pastor Chris.
Yes, Swami. Yes, I am Pastor Chris Nallan, and pastoring a church in San Jose for the last 7 years. Prior to that, I was in the IT world, and I had a business, and now decided to give that up and pastor on a full-time basis.
What got you from IT to pastor?
You know, it's kind of interesting that even though I was in the IT world, there was a passion for me to help people. And it was always back there, and finally it came to a point one day I was sitting in my office, and I asked myself, well, what am I doing here? And there were, something always drives you, and you have to have a passion. And all my 25, 30 years, I did have a passion. It really kept me going. And one day I came into my office, I go, this is not where I need to be at. And helping people was what I wanted to do, see people that are in need and help them out, not only spiritually, but physically as well.
But do you think as an IT person, you always help people out as well?
You know, yes, you do.
Personally, I mean, in your life, were you always one of those people that everyone came to for advice?
In any career, there's always the service aspect of it. You're helping somebody, you're serving somebody. And even when you have a business, there's something that you want to accomplish or something that you want to help. And that's always the motive. When you have that motive, when you're helping somebody, that's the gratification that you get, that you're able to accomplish something.
Good. And Liz,
Yes.
another week.
Another week. Here we are.
Another week, here we go. Let's actually, you know what, let's start off. We got some controversial news. Let's start off with our friend Nathan here, showing us his iPhone app. What is your app called?
So it's called Keep in Touch. It's a personal relationship manager. And as I was creating the app, I thought, you know, this is a really handy tool that I've designed for not only salespeople to help maintain their relationships, but salespeople, they always strive to become more personal relationship, because the more personal relationship gets, the more likely it is that the sale will occur with that person. And so I kind of made it more generic than just real estate, which is what the industry that I'm in, and thought, you know what, this could even help me keep in touch with my friends and help me remind me to call my mom every week, you know, like she wants me to call. And so I'll give you a short show of it right here. So for example, it's really neat. Here's the dashboard. And so from here you can see that I've got a number of people in different groups.
Right.
And what I've done is I've created these groups based on what's important to me and how often I want to be calling them. And so let's just say that this person, Christina, is on the list. And so I can tap on her name, I can look at the information on her, or I can just hit call and start dialing her right from the app.
And when you say groups, do you mean like different groups as far as like friends, co-workers, business associates, family?
Exactly. Anything you want. Anything you can think of, really. And it's unlimited. You can have as many groups as you'd like. And what's neat is that, let's say you call somebody from one of these groups that's due for a call. The moment you hang up the phone, it asks the question, was this touch successful? And so let's just say I spoke to this person, and so I say yes. Great. now it asks me to populate a call log information. So I can make note of the call that was just made. So let's just say this time I don't really feel like doing it. Great, no problem. So now if you notice on the app, I've got the name of the person, Christina, and the group that they're in as hot leads. The moment I go back to the dashboard, Christina's gone from the hot leads group and she'll reappear in the frequency that I've specified, which is every 4 days. So what I found was the problem was every time I tried to think of who I wanted to call next, my brain went to who I just called, which doesn't really help.
Right.
And so I tried to take that whole memorization and thinking thing out of the equation and focus on what's most important, which is connecting with people.
You know, the brilliant thing about your app is also writing down how you can write down notes, jot down about that person. That's what Bill Clinton used to do, actually. The president used to, when he was governor of Arkansas, he used to go home every night and in his notepad write down who he met and personal information about them. So when he met them again, they were astonished that he knew so much about them and he remembered.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And that's exactly what I was trying to do too, because I wanted to, for example, with this person, Chad, I've had 2 previous conversations. I know that he's got one relationship with his girlfriend, Teresa, and I know that there's one potential business opportunity where he's referring Anthony.
Oh,
so I'm able to keep track of all that information in my app. So each time I reach out to Chad, I can talk about a couple things that are important to him, and then maybe one thing where I can mutually benefit from.
And how's your app doing so far? It's called K.i.T.
Yeah, it's called K.i.T. It's K.i.T PRM. It's in the App Store. And we've had amazingly positive response, especially in my real estate industry, because for the most part, the applications that are out there, they focus on the 20% of the business people who are doing the 80% of the volume of sales,
Right.
where my app is not focused on that 20%, the top producers. My app is actually trying to help the average producer become more successful in their realm.
Right.
So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
So it's about really connecting with everyone, making
Yeah.
everyone feel important,
Exactly, yeah.
connecting with them.
Yeah.
Well, we got a couple new friends here, man.
Well,
What do you think? What do you think about the app, Kory?
Your app could definitely help me because I am one of those people that be like, oh, I did not call my mom this month. Let me remember that.
Yeah.
And I'm just frequent on that, oh, I need to talk to someone, but I always forget. And having something that can help remind me would definitely help a whole lot.
Yeah, and that's when I was talking to my designer about it. He's like, wow, this is really, really useful. Like, how long has it been since I've called my brother or some of my best friends? I mean, we all know life gets busy,
Right.
but what's there to help us actually build a relationship with all of our friends on Facebook?
Nothing.
You know, and
Right.
the great thing with that is, and the more important thing you said is, we oftentimes point at other people for not calling us, and point at other people for being a bit selfish and not reaching out to us. But yet we forget that we don't make the effort weekly and call people and connect with people that we haven't talked to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So congratulations, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's a good
Looking
app.
forward to it.
All right, let's get to the controversial news, something that's not as lighthearted, something that's not as fun as your app.
Important.
Knockout video. There's a knockout game. You guys play it?
Why you look at me?
I'm just asking.
I haven't.
No,
I haven't.
no.
Well, there is a game called Knockout, and it looks like kids around the country now are focusing and make-believing, I suppose, and acting like they do in the game, going up to random people and knocking them out on the streets. So let's look at a quick video right now. All right, cool. So that's the video of that girl getting knocked out. Let's start, Kory. And what's your whole thought process on that? Why do you think this is happening across America? It's spreading from state to state.
Let me just get over that. Wow, he really just hit her really hard.
Tore her apart behind the back, too.
I mean, it just comes down to people just wanting to show their dominance. They're mostly, if you know, I bet you it's mostly all men that are doing this. It's hardly few women doing this because men have that natural instinct to want to prove their dominance over another one. And hitting an unsuspecting person, let's be real, that's cowardice, and I don't like that. I'm not for that. If you're going to hit them, square up with them face to face.
Right.
But kids are just taking it as if they just like want to test their strength and brag about it.
Do you think, though, we're in a generation, guys, that it has to do with attention more than anything else, that the need for fame, the need for attention instantly, that's leading to it? Or do you think it's something more?
When I looked at it, I was wondering, why would somebody do that? What instigated them to do something like that? My heart goes out to this lady, and I saw the way she fell.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of falls, something similar, playing football on the streets. And when I fell, I still have bruises from that fall. And I can imagine this lady, she looks like she's minding her own business, walking. This guy comes from behind, slugs him. She falls face down.
Right.
Oh, wow. I can imagine the bruises that this lady would get. But not only that, how would it, emotionally, how would she be hurt? I'm sure for a long time that would be in her, ingrained as I was walking down the street, minding my own business, and this guy comes over. It's like raping. I would consider that as this lady is getting raped, violated. And I'm just odd. I'm just odd as to why people would want to play these kinds of games.
Yeah, normally I can put myself in somebody's shoes, but I can't understand why they would spend their time doing this. Like, couldn't they do something more productive with their energy?
Right.
And that's what sort of I can't figure out how to understand where they're coming from.
Well, Chris, Nate, a lot of it has to do with people blame the parents. I got to ask you, Pastor Chris.
Sure.
People blame the parents. You're a parent in here. And what do you think when people say it's just the parent? Because I think that's sort of a lame excuse to blame parents. It's not the parents' fault. I mean, the parents parent them they parent them their whole life, but the kids go out on their own to school every day. They're not with their parents. So you can't really blame the parents.
No, you cannot blame the parents. Yes, there's a certain element that does come to play with where they grew up at. And if you look at a lot of these kids, they're what I call missing parents. Parents are not part of their life. And when parents are not part of their life, they tend to do things on their own. And even though parents might be there, but what we call absent parents, parents are so busy with their own lives, they might have 2 jobs and things like that. But on the other hand, I want to put that in a positive way. Kids do need some type of attention or something to do. And it might be games or some type of a sports activity. When you put them into some type of a positive environment, you'll see the changes that would occur in their lives as well. And a lot of these kids that I'm seeing now is that they do not have people that would mentor them. Somebody that would say, this is something wrong. You should not do this. And when they started to see this, that somebody's taking the initiative and mentoring them and start putting some moral values inside of them, and they would say, no, I should not do this. I'm hurting somebody. All of a sudden, they may not do that.
What do you think, Liz?
I don't think, I can't imagine, first of all, I've never hit anyone, so I wouldn't know what it would feel like to hit somebody that hard to knock them out. And then, I can't imagine they thought that out very well. You know, they didn't think about how they could hurt somebody potentially very, very seriously. And then secondly, if they get caught, what are the repercussions of hitting somebody that hard legally? Or, what happens to you for being so violent, they might need to be punished for something. So I don't think they're thinking about it. I think young people sometimes they don't realize what their actions incur.
Sure.
Actually, I just saw something on CNN last night about that, because what they were saying is that the part of the brain that helps human beings understand the future ramifications of certain actions doesn't fully develop until they're 24. And so I would wager a bet that most of the individuals committing these knockout crime, whatever you want to call them, are probably under the age of 24.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because
I
I mean,
just
if
found
they
that
understood
out,
what they
too.
were doing long term, the impact, I bet they probably wouldn't do it. Although you still have a couple people who probably would, but
I agree.
I don't
I
know.
heard that also.
We also have a culture that kind of indicates that what can we get away with? If I can get away with this, how far can I get away?
Right.
And they do not really think about the ramification that you were talking about, but what they're thinking is that, can I get away with this if I do this and walk away? Here, they're not hitting somebody where, let me hit you, but they're doing is trying to sucker punch from the back and trying to get away with that.
I mean, my questions I asked to this is like, when I've heard about this knockout, on the only areas I really hear about this is, Detroit, Chicago, like rural areas. And my question, and those areas around it is surrounded by violence. Like violence is going rampant. Now you're about your under 24 thing. That okay, because I'm under 24 and I don't really be thinking about things that are happening in the past. I'm mostly built on the now, and I'll worry about it when I get to it. It's not a problem till then. So you saying that can make some understand. It makes me think, okay, maybe it is maybe under 24s. Can't say above that. Not saying it goes for everyone, but just some under 24s that okay, maybe it's just we don't think about it. Because I know naturally I don't think about it, and I just do the stuff I want to do, and then nothing too bad though. I'm not punching people in the streets.
Right.
But like it's just worrying about it later. And I just want to know, like, these areas that this type of stuff is happening in, like, if it's Chicago or Detroit, I can understand a little bit because it's where you're growing up around violence. Violence is all you know. You've got gangs around you, so naturally you have to show your dominance. And no, it's not okay to hit anyone, but I mean, it's better. I mean, this is going to make me sound bad, but they're doing it. I believe personally, sometimes it can happen out of trying to cover your own self. Like, they're young, they're out there in rural areas where gangs are picking them off one by one. They've got, where even to be recruited, what you have to do is you have to not kidnap a girl by, escorting her down an alleyway or kidnapping her into a car, or like, say you're driving on the freeway or you're driving the street. If they put their high beams on you and you high beam them back, you are causing for them to come after you now, because now you made yourself a target. Mm-hmm. So there's different ways that they're recruiting, and it's you either get picked on, or you try to defend yourselves, or you're just doing some dumb stuff, hitting people just for no reason.
That's what that looks
Well, hopefully it goes away soon. Hopefully, I think when you have no hope in the education system, when you have no hope when you're growing up in those areas, there's absolutely no hope whatsoever in their minds, to be a success. They have really no passion. It's very hard for them to relate or to acknowledge that there's a better future ahead of them. Mm-hmm. This is what they did. I don't think they even understand what they did. Yeah. Does that make sense to you? Like they get it, but they don't really. I don't think they know really what's going on.
No, they don't. They just know, I just won the game. Like,
Right.
She just fell like a bowling pin. I won.
Right.
Right.
Well, speaking of hope, let's go to our second discussion, controversial news. 50 years since JFK got assassinated, and everyone's making a huge news about it. And Oliver Stone was on an interview talking about how there was a second bullet. So let's look at that real quick. So he's pretty much saying there's a second bullet. Why is there such a fascination still about JFK? Well, what do you think it is about him that there's such a fascination?
Well, I think that people like controversy.
Right.
They will create controversy for over little things just as well, just to create an argument. People love arguments. And I believe just for that particular case, people want to prove their own point of view as to what could have happened. And the people do that to sell movies, sell books, or just to promote themselves. We don't know. I believe that they could have done some type of autopsy on the body, and they would have proven that if there was a body under the bullet or not. But we don't know.
Do you think if he didn't get assassinated, he would be this iconic president? What do you guys think?
I think no matter what, he was going to get shot.
Right.
I think they were dead set. They were gunning for him, whether it had been there or later. He was going to get shot.
Right.
But
why? Because why do you think he's gonna get shot? Because he's all about love. He brought a whole generation up, or do you think because he was doing some shady stuff, or both?
He was raising a generation to be different than how it was. Like, he was trying to make acceptance of everyone more worldwide. Not saying, he was the sole contributor to why things have changed back in that time, but he was a lot more progressive than the rest of everyone around him.
Right. He influenced the world. He sort of is like the Obama. Obama's like the Kennedy of our generation. If you think about it, because of Kennedy, you have all these new politicians. You had the Bill Clintons, but he taught people to give back. He taught people to be active. He taught people to be peaceful and loving. Actually, John Lennon gave an interview about a week before he got assassinated. And someone asked him, will you run for politics? And he said, I would never run for politics. Because if you're a politician, you talk about peace, you just get shot like Kennedy and Gandhi and Dr. King. You know, all from Dr. King wasn't a politician, but of course he was a leader of nonviolence. What do you think is, what's your whole take on this generation? Do you think it's a lot like the 60s? Do you think we're going back to the peace and the love, or do you think things are changing up a bit?
Yeah, I think that the overall trend is probably going to be in the direction of, as the global reach of technology brings everybody closer, my hope, wish, dream, desire, or foresight is saying that it's probably going to become more of like this brotherhood amongst everybody. And so I think that the way the world is going, it's going to end up going that way. And that JFK was probably one of the first to be the forward thinking about that, because of it's just I think it's inevitable.
Right.
You know, and going back to the question of would he have been as iconic? Well, I mean, when you take somebody out who's at their prime, they become icons, like Marilyn Monroe, right? Or other popular people like in that nature. And so,
Right.
yeah, I think he definitely would have been iconic.
I think it's the idea of what they could have been, what they could have, what more could they have done or provided or given us, or
Definitely.
So I think that's what makes them so special. They may have done that, I guess it's the wish that they would have done more, provided, given more to society, whatever.
There's this guy that wrote a book. I highly recommend you not get it. But he wrote a book. Do not buy the book, people. But he wrote a book called What If? I was like, what if Kennedy was alive? What would have happened? And Reagan was coming up as a Republican back then in 1968. What would have happened if Kennedy what would happen with Vietnam? They were still in Vietnam. What would happen with civil rights? Kennedy was a believer in civil rights, but Dr. King always said that the Kennedy brothers could have done more. But I'll tell you an interesting story about the Kennedy family. It shows you how things change very rapidly. In 1962, their dad had a stroke. And in 61, his two kids were the most powerful people in the world, right? He had Bobby Kennedy as Attorney General, John Kennedy, his son, as the President of America. 62 has a stroke, and in 63, he saw his kid get assassinated. Couldn't talk because he had a stroke. And then 68, saw his other kid get assassinated. Couldn't talk. So he went through a whole life of being very successful financially, having all these kids, wanting them to be president. They finally became president. They lived his dreams. And then, unfortunately, as a parent, he saw the assassination of both his kids. Let's go to our third topic right now. That's civil rights and gay rights. Because as we know right now, gay marriage is not legal in all states. I believe that Kennedy is like Obama in the sense that Obama has the gay rights. He hasn't done anything. I mean, he's done a few things, but he hasn't legalized gay rights. Kennedy didn't legalize civil rights. He didn't do it. I mean, he was in the process of doing it, but he never up front legalized, civil rights. So what's your whole take on the gay marriage? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think should happen?
I firmly believe if it ain't I'm pro all for gay marriage and all that, because I firmly believe if it ain't got nothing to do with you, why you worried about it?
Right.
It ain't got nothing to do with your life. Let it go. Like, people got issues like, oh, this person's dating this person, but if they're not putting their body parts with you, why are you worried about it?
That's true. I mean, I do understand to a certain degree. Pastor Chris, what do you think?
We have to take a look at, we have what we call laws.
Right.
And we have civil laws that the country, each state puts together. And if there's a law that indicates that gay marriage should occur, it's a civil and individual's responsibilities to do that. Would I marry somebody, I have certain faith, certain beliefs. We have membership in our churches that, allows us to do certain things and does not allow us to do certain things. I don't think so. I'll marry somebody, but if somebody comes to me, I'll find out what the background. We just don't marry people. We provide counseling And whenever I marry somebody, I go through a 10-week session, premarital counseling, and we find out a lot more what's inside of them, why they want to get married, what's happening in their lives, what are the repercussions if these things comes up later on. Because one thing we don't want is divorce.
Right.
We don't want divorce. So we find out as to how they would live, what are certain issues, how you develop that. And once we find out or give them the counseling that they need, then we can really sit down and marry those people. We have laws that the country has, and we all follow those kind of rules and regulations. These are laws of the country, and we live by it.
Do you think, though, that Christianity gets a bad rap in the sense that they're the only religion that sort of is talked about in the media that is quote unquote against gay marriage? No one talks about Hindus, no one talks about Jews, no one talks about Muslims, no one talks about Catholics, no one really talks about any other religion opposed to gay marriage other than Christians. Or do you think that Christians are the most loud and spoken about opposing gay marriage?
You know, that's the thing, is that me being a Christian,
Right.
what is Christianity? Christianity is about having your relationship with a Heavenly Father, but with others as well.
Right.
And if you look at what the Bible says, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, so that whoever believes in him will not perish, but have everlasting life. Now, when you look at the world, it's everyone that's inside.
Right.
Everyone that's inside the world. So if it's gay, somebody that's living in fornication, if somebody's adulterous, it falls all into the same category. And once we look at the people, we don't look at the sin. What we do is look at the people.
Right.
And what we have to do is adopt them.
Right.
Adopt people, not the lifestyle. And if we can, I'm not a psychologist.
Right.
I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor.
Right.
As to why they have chosen that particular lifestyle. But what I do is I provide spiritual guidance to them.
But do you think, though, and this is what, because I'm a Christian too, like you. Do you think, this is my whole issue with every religion, and it's not just Christianity, is being an Indian, and you're Indian, we've had racism dealt with us.
Sure.
To go up to another person and say, listen, I've had racism dealt with you, but if you're gay, sorry, can't do it. That's not cool. You know what I mean? To me, that seems very almost harsh and cold. And I'm not just talking about that doesn't happen just in Christianity with gay marriage. That happens with other people in other races. I've seen races within races talk badly about their races. You're not dark enough. You're too dark. And I've seen that happen a lot. Do you think, maybe, I don't know, maybe that the Bible, even though we read the Bible, I agree with the Bible, that maybe that there will be a time where gay marriage will be, or Christians will be like, okay, you know what, it's time.
Sure, and there's always division. People cause division. And they will look at you and they will cast you in one way or another.
Right.
But if you look at, and I'm not talking about religion, because people create religion. And what we need to do is, if you look at the teachings and why God came here, he said, love one another, like God has loved us. So if I look at you, regardless of your faults or any other person's faults, then we should look beyond that and say, I'm going to love you regardless.
Right.
And when we look at people's faults, then I'm already judging you. And I should not judge you in any particular way.
Right.
Love people the way they are, with their faults, their hurts. Because I cannot judge anybody, because I will be judged just as well.
Right.
I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. So I cannot judge you based on anything, because I will be judged.